Hello everyone, today's lecture will be about Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell is widely regarded as one of the most important philosophers of the 20th century. Born in 1872 in Trelech, Monmouthshire, Wales, he was a prolific writer, a pacifist, and a vocal advocate for social justice. Russell's contributions to philosophy are wide-ranging and influential, and his work continues to shape the way we think about logic, metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. Early life and education. Russell came from a prominent family. His grandfather, Lord John Russell, was a former Prime Minister of Great Britain, and his parents were both prominent social reformers. Russell was educated at Trinity College, Cambridge, where he would later become a professor at Cambridge. He studied mathematics and philosophy, and he quickly distinguished himself as a brilliant student. Russell's interest in logic and mathematics began during his time at Cambridge. In 1903, he published Principles of Mathematics, which laid the foundation for much of modern mathematical logic. The book introduced the concept of logical atomism, which held that complex propositions could be reduced to simple propositions about atomic facts. Russell's work in logic would become one of his most significant contributions to philosophy. Metaphysics and epistemology. In addition to his work in logic, Russell made important contributions to metaphysics and epistemology. In his early work, Russell was heavily influenced by the German philosopher Gottlob Frege, who he credited with inspiring him to pursue philosophy. Russell's theory of logical construction held that complex objects could be analyzed as the product of simpler objects. This theory was an attempt to avoid the problems of traditional metaphysics, which had been criticized by philosophers like Immanuel Kant for relying on unverifiable or speculative concepts. Russell's work in epistemology was also significant. He was a proponent of empiricism, which held that knowledge is derived from experience and observation. Russell argued that we could only know what we could observe and measure, and that our knowledge of the world was always provisional and subject to revision based on new evidence. He also developed a theory of knowledge by acquaintance, which held that our most basic knowledge comes from direct sensory experience. Ethics and politics. Russell's philosophy was also shaped by his political and ethical beliefs. He was a pacifist and a vocal critic of war, and he played an active role in the anti-war movement during World War I. He also campaigned for nuclear disarmament and was a staunch advocate for women's rights, advocating for the legalization of homosexuality and abortion. Russell believed that ethical principles should be grounded in reason and evidence, rather than religious or dogmatic beliefs. He argued that the aim of ethics should be to promote human flourishing, and that moral rules should be based on the principle of maximizing happiness and minimizing suffering. Personal life and controversies. Despite his many achievements, Russell's personal life was not without controversy. He was married 4 times, and his numerous affairs and unconventional lifestyle drew criticism from some quarters. He was also a vocal critic of organized religion, which brought him into conflict with religious leaders and conservative politicians. Conclusion. In conclusion, Bertrand Russell was a highly influential philosopher whose contributions to logic, metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics continue to shape the way we think about the world. His work laid the foundations for much of modern analytic philosophy, and his commitment to reason, evidence, and social justice remains an important inspiration to scholars and activists around the world. Russell's legacy continues to be celebrated and debated by philosophers, historians, and the wider public alike, and his life and work will continue to be a subject of study for generations to come.